Welcome to an episode of my Best 11 podcast. Today we are joined by a right back who has played across, I only played for 3 clubs in his career. Played the majority of his time at Luton, West Ham, and then finished off his career at QPR, picking up a couple of under-21 caps on the way. And we'll find a little bit more about what he's doing in his career, but he's still in football today. Hello to Tim Breacker. How are you, Tim?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. Thanks for inviting me on.
Excellent. Absolute pleasure to have you on. Marv, how are you going?
I'm good, Andrew. Thank you. It's great to have another fellow ex-teammate, as you call it. And I can actually say that when I was first coming through the ranks, Tim was easily by far the fittest man. It was like a Rolls Royce. It was ridiculous how fit this guy used to run up and down when we did the cross countries and not even be tired. It's annoying, in fact.
Still like that, Tim?
No. I'm trying, but I'm fighting it. It's a battle I'm fighting, but I'm losing. Definitely losing.
So, what we do is, those people who haven't listened before, we go through Tim's best 11 players he's ever set foot on a pitch with. What we always like to start with, and I know Tim's still involved in football, is formation. So, what formation have you made your team, Tim?
Well, had to be a back four, because that's what I always played in. Now and again, I had the old wing back one, which wasn't much fun, to be honest, because even if you can run, there's no thanks in that one. And then I'm going to go very attacking. I thought about a couple of holding midfield players who I might mention later, but I'm going very attacking. So it's like a 4-3-3, but it's more of a diamond, actually, like a diamond. It's a 4-diamond-2. That way I thought, yeah, I'm going to be very attacking, very open, and play for the fans. So it's a very attacking, exciting team, hopefully.
That sounds great, Tim. I mean, that's currently a formation I've been using with the girls over here. I like it because it is very attacking, but on the flip side, if you don't get those two on the diamond, on the outside of the diamond, like marking or picking up when they should be picking up, you could get overrun.
Yeah, I've got 2 perfect players for that. Right. Perfect for it.
Excellent. So we'll start off with goalkeepers. When you are ready, Tim, over to you, sir.
Well, my goalkeeper is, for me, out of all the players that I'm going to mention today, he for me was a truly, truly world-class player. He played for his country, played in World Cups, and when I started working with him, I thought, oh wow, this guy is something special. And when you talk about athletes, he was an unbelievable athlete. I've never seen anything like it. He could have turned his hand to so many different sports. And as a goalkeeper, he actually could do the cross countries as well. Whereas back in the day, one of the other goalkeepers who was very close to being up there with him, but wasn't an athlete, was Andy Dibble, who I remember once upon a time swimming a river on a cross country to get back. But that's another story. But this lad is, unbelievable athlete.
Is he Czech?
He is. Yeah, very much so. And I think you got him, Marv. But what a player!
I haven't got his name though.
Have you not?
No, it's not Ludo. Is it Ludo?
That's it, Ludo. Ludek McCloskey.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So funny
enough. I thought you were going to say Pavel. No, I thought you were going to say Pavel Cernacek, but I don't think he ever played for West Ham, did he? I was going down the route of Shaka. What about Shaka?
Shaka was very, very good. He was more, when I was going out of West Ham, he was coming in. But Ludo, no, honestly, in training, you couldn't get past him. He was just immense. And not just, for a big man, shot stopping, he would, under pressure back in them days, the ball would get launched forward every single game, no matter who you were playing, right at the death, and he would just come and pluck it sort of 5 foot above everybody else, and so good. I mean, as a modern keeper now, they have to kick it and be very comfortable on the ball, and that wasn't his forte, but I think if he came through now, he was so good that he would learn how to do that as well. He was fantastic bloke as well. Very, very humble, but truly, for me, a world-class keeper. He was Ludo.
And he was up there in the running team, was he? He was up there in the
Pardon?
running. He was
Oh, he
up
could
there
do
in
the
the
running.
run.
He could do the cross countries, yeah. You know, normally goalkeepers put the old
know.
goalkeeper. I'm not doing it, but no, he could do everything. He used to be. It's some of the things you see him doing in the gym. He was like a gymnast as well, and I think he did ice skating and you know, like power skating, you know, the racing, that type of
the
thing.
speed skating thing, yeah.
Speed skating, and he could do, you know, cross country skiing, and he's one of them. He could do anything like that. He was so good, so fit, and like I say, trying to score past him. Not that I was very good at, you know, you get the odd chance where you're allowed to have a few shots at the keeper, but never. I don't think I ever scored past him. He was that good. He was a man mountain in the goal, and get down low, high, anything. Very, very good.
How do you think the fitness gave him the edge? Or do you think it made any difference, or was it just a personal thing for him in terms of being a goalkeeper? Because I know obviously you work in football still. Does it make a huge difference for a keeper to be that fit?
I think it does, especially now, moving their feet, getting across the goal, balls over the top, quick off their line, you know, confidence in their body like that.
But that's kind of more short, sharp bursts rather than across country. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, he honestly, he could do everything. He would sprint, he would do any running, anything. Like I say, a gymnast, jump high, get down low, get up quick, those sort of things for a big guy, you know. I think he's probably 6'4", 5", but, you know, he's a man mountain, but absolutely agile as you wouldn't believe, you know. I think I could honestly, like I say, when I signed at West Ham, I couldn't believe how good he was and how fit he was and how much of an athlete. When I say athlete, not just like in terms of running, but being agile and, you know, being able to get around the box, and just so good, so good.
I think that's a very good question you've just asked there, Andrew. And I'm just thinking about it.
Thanks, Marv.
I'm thinking about, like, if you're really, really fit, you tend to like focus more, don't you? Your reaction are going to be a lot more quicker. So I think that probably would have had a big difference, even though as a goalkeeper they're not running around and doing as much running as an outfield player. But still, if you're really, really fit, your concentration levels are going to be much higher than someone who's a little bit more tired. So, I mean, that's
no, good point. Good point. I think as well, when you look now, back in those days, when you think about other sports like cricketers and golfers, even now, when you watch golf, they're immensely fit, aren't they? You know, they spend a lot of time in the gym. Even tennis players, you don't just play tennis, they do everything now, don't they?
Right.
And he was sort of that sort of bloke, to be honest. He was in the gym all the time, you know, and you'd be asking what you doing, and he'd be doing everything in there, you know. Not lifting weights as such, but agile stuff and working his body. Yeah, very, very good. But yeah, that sort of thing, more in terms of that, a modern keeper in terms of that, because I think they're more like that now. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. So moving on to your own position, right back.
Well, yeah, there's a couple who come to mind that when I was playing, that was sort of, we were in and out at times together, but one that I really liked and looked up to a lot when I was coming through was a player who was very unlucky in his career. He had an injury that not many players have once, but he had it twice in his career, and very underrated, very technical, technically good, very, like I say, underrated, defensively sound. Couldn't get by him, even though people thought they could.
Was this at Luton?
This was at Luton, yeah, when I was coming through. Like I say, was very unlucky with injuries, and that sort of helped me because up until I got in the team, I'd never played right back in my life. I made my debut in midfield for Luton alongside another legend, Brian Horton.
So you was a midfielder, Tim, was you before?
Yeah, I come through the ranks as a midfield player, signed as a midfield player wide, and then I made my debut in the centre with Brian Horton. I think I played 2 games, and it was that season when Luton was struggling. It was the David Pleat run across the pitch at Man City. It was that season. So it sort of, when the team was struggling, it wasn't for a young lad, so I was out of the team. Kirk Stevens was the right back at the time, and then when he moved on and he was injured, sorry, they chucked me in at right back, and the rest was history. I never played anywhere else after. Well, played centre half a couple of times, but never really moved from there.
So this player, is it?
You might be related to him, actually, Marv.
I was going to say Rob Johnson.
Yes, yeah. Well, Rob as a like I say, massively underrated. Somebody who I learned a lot of, and probably didn't help him in his career at Luton because I came through, restricted his chances, and then he had both cruciates as well, and a fantastic gentleman of a lad as well, So I'm going to put him in there, unless I can just put myself in there and sort of push him out again. So sorry, Rob, maybe I'll put myself in.
I was because he had a funny nickname, didn't he? What was his nickname? He had a weird nickname. I can't think what the. He used to say because it looked like a Mexican or something. Was it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. It'll come to me.
I knew you guys used to call him something, and I can't think what it was now.
Yeah,
but
no, I can't think. I think the other one who was similar to Rob when I was at West Ham originally. Steve Potts was the right back when I signed there, and then he, very similar to me, going to right back at the first time. He went to centre half, and his career took off there in terms of, that's where he played his whole career. And then Kenny Brown came in, and Kenny did really well but I was lucky I kept my position and whatever. So they were the two players really. Well, Stevie to start with, but Rob and then Kenny Brown, who I sort of vied with the position. But I'll put myself in actually, Marv. If that's all right.
Yeah, but the first one, Andrew, we've got one. We've got one.
Yes.
Put himself in.
Yes.
Really. I just want to play with this team because I just love the sound of it, and the thought of playing with that team would be amazing. I was lucky to play great players, and
great to see. So, where would you, if you were to play in today's era, which team do you think you'd suit your playing style the best? Obviously, in the Premier, we're talking Premier League, so we've got world fans who don't follow Championship.
I would say I don't know really. If you said. I was more, to be honest, I was a frustrated midfielder playing at right back, so I just used to run forward all the time. Whereas nowadays they do that anyway, So most of them, I think I could, in terms of the going forward and not having to worry so much. And a little story about that actually. When I finished playing, I went to QPR. I was at QPR as a player, and then when I finished playing, the chief scout was. He used to be chief scout at Arsenal, and I ended up sharing an office with him, and he told me this story. And he said, "Did you realise when you was at Luton that I wanted to sign you for Arsenal?" So I went, "You're joking." So he said, "No, I wanted to sign you for Arsenal." I was like, "Really?" He said, "But George Graham overruled him and went for Lee Dixon." And that was, funny enough, that was the reason he told me that George Graham wanted somebody who was more of a stay-at-home fullback, like a traditional, if you like. Whereas I was, obviously, my game was more thinking forward and getting crosses in, more like a modern fullback, if you like. But I think George Graham knew his stuff, didn't he? And Lee Dixon went on to play for England and win a load of titles and stuff. But so I thought this was like, I thought, no, I wish you hadn't told me that. I wish you hadn't told me that. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea, because you didn't have an agent back in them days to tell you. So I had no idea. And I just finished playing. I thought, I don't know how to take that bit of information, I think he meant it as a compliment, that way.
Yeah, I was going to say, it probably was more as a compliment, because the way it sounds like he was talking, it was a case of that. There wasn't a bid put in, was there, really? It was just a conversation?
No, not that I knew of.
Right.
Not that I knew of.
Right.
Not that I knew. I think they were it was that time. They were putting their team together at Arsenal, and like Stevie Bold came in, Winterburn, Dixon. They built a team really. George Graham did, but yeah.
But he wasn't exactly a stay-at-home guy, was he? Winterburn, to be fair. Really?
Winterburn, not really. I think he was more. I don't know. Obviously, they worked a lot on their back forward defender. Maybe I wasn't a good enough defender for him,
Maybe your arms weren't long enough to put your hands up for the offside.
Yeah, that was it. The offside. Yeah, but yeah. I was lucky. I was very happy anyway with my lot. So yeah, but funny story.
Yeah, very, very interesting.
It makes a lot of sense now. Then why I didn't leave then? Oh my God! I'm always bombing forward, centre back. No chance, am I then? No chance.
You're right. You're right, Marv. Yeah, modern day.
No chance. Not a cat and hell chance.
Yeah, Stonesy coming out with the ball. That'd have been you.
So move across to Marv's part-time position, part-time left back, centre back, and mostly striker. Where did you? Sorry, which left back is the best left back you've ever played with?
Again, I've been lucky. I've played with some very good ones, and it's close between a couple really. But the one I've gone for was quite a unique player. He was. I was always like brought up as stretching and an athletic side of it, and that sort of. When I first saw this player, he sort of said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm stretching, getting ready for training." He went, "What? Don't need any of that." And he just used to go out and smash balls around. But the way he smashed them around was like like when you see a good golfer and he just hits the ball and it's sweet and out of nothing, no back. This was him. He had an unbelievable left foot. He wasn't blessed athletically, because I think if he was, then he would have, played.
Was he aggressive? Was he quite aggressive?
I would say, yeah, that was another side of him that probably didn't help him. I think you might have him, Marv, but yeah, he did have a different side to him, and which a lot of players back in them days you had to have. But yeah, he did have a side to him, and again, he was one who was quite unlucky with injuries. Very soon after I joined him, he got an injury, and he had it throughout his career, really. Plagued him a little bit, but he was a sort who didn't care and just got on with it and fought through it, but even with that, it was almost like he carried it, but he was still a fantastic footballer, like I said, an unbelievable left foot. That I've never seen. Pardon?
No, Andrew, he's got it.
I got one or two.
Go on then. I know who it is.
Julian Dix.
Yeah, correct. Correct.
I wasn't sure if you played with Psycho, Stuart Pearce.
No, I didn't. Did
he join West Ham after you left?
He did, yeah. I think he was, early 2000s. The other
Julian Dix. I see what you mean now about aggression.
Yeah. Tim, did you? I think you must have done play in the semi-final against them in the Littlewoods Cup. Was it?
Yes. Yeah. I remember that well. Yeah.
You're like, what? I remember seeing a clip of it the other day, and it was a case that Julian Dix was playing for West Ham, and then the ball had got cleared. The next thing, they turned around and it showed Dix's face, and it was like a massive goal. His cheekbone was out here, and they said, "It looks like he's had a clash with Mick Hartford." Honestly, his face was tough, but like tough as nails, like you said, because he didn't want to go off. Dix did not want to go off, and I'm not even joking. His face was the size of a size 4 football, literally. Yeah, and he was playing on the field.
It was a battle. I think we got really wound up by them, and I just remember before the game there was sort of their program was talk about the final. And it was the second leg, and it wasn't over, and it was like, almost preparations for Wembley. And we were really fired up. I remember I was still quite young then, 22, I think. And Liam Brady was playing, and he was playing on the left. And I remember the senior lad saying to me, "You know what you got to do as soon as Liam Brady gets the ball." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then they just kept saying, "You know what you got to do as soon as Liam." All right, okay. It was like that. And I thought, Liam Brady's a legend. Do you know what I mean? I don't really, it's one of them. But all right, I get it's for the team. I've got to do it. And of course, as soon as I got the chance, he was towards the end of his career. I mean, unbelievable player. But yeah, it was like that. We had to be aggressive with them, and we we won through in the end. So yeah, good memories.
Oh, definitely, Julian. So Julian Dixie always came across as the hard nut. What was he like in the dressing room? Was the hard nut in the dressing room, or would the comedian come out, or what was it like?
He's a nice lad, actually. A really strange, not a strange character. That sounds a bit disrespectful, but when you got to know him, he was one of them, like I'm saying about, he used to say to me, what's all that stretching about, and that sort of thing. But and like, if you went in the gym, he'd be like, what, I don't do any weights. But he'd be the one who'd go home and do weights at home, or he would he would be eating crap in front of everybody else, and then go home and have you just got the feeling that, no, surely he was a bit like that. And sometimes he'd sort of, it'd be like, all right, I better do that. But his bravado he didn't want to do it in front of everybody, sort of thing. He wanted to just be himself. And it is a great character. He's a great character.
So you think an element of it was bravado then? Bit of white line fever?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. There's a bit of that. And I think he was like that anyway when he was younger, and he was always that sort of era. It was like that. There was a lot of off the ball stuff, and there was a lot of, you got to stick up for yourself. You got to get your elbow in first, if you like. And, that was the way the game was, really. And, sort of, that's how you had to be to survive, really. And I think as well with him, because he was such a good footballer, he needed that other side. And yeah, he sort of made sure he had that other side, put it that way, And I think the fans loved him for it as well, So he sort of gave him even more confidence and played into it as well. So yeah, good player though. That's the thing. People, sometimes with those ones, they think, oh yeah, he was this, that, and the other. But no, he's a very good player. Take away everything else,
No, definitely. So moving across to centre backs, in any particular order, left hand side or right hand side.
Again, it's so hard because there's so many names I could throw in. And,
is this the hardest position for you? Because obviously you played next to them, so you appreciate them a bit more.
Yeah, I think the one I'm going to go for is because, at the time in my career, he massively helped me. I'd always appreciate that. And I think as well, there's a lot of, like I say, names I could name and who I played with. And maybe it wasn't their sort of time of their career, if you like. It wasn't their sort of purple patch. But I think for this player, this was probably his purple patch of his career. What he maybe before that he'd done well anyway. But this was maybe what he'd be remembered for. But for me, he really helped me. In terms of when I was a young player, and like I said before, I didn't play the position until I got into the first team. So it was later on that, he helped me. And some of them things that you pick up that you couldn't pick up from training or from a coach, it's hard to give to a player. But when you're on the pitch together and it's, in the heat of the battle, you need somebody next to you who's going to help you. And he did that for me. So I appreciate him for that. But he was also, a good organizer, which you had to have in those days in terms of the back four, which you don't see as much now. A good talker, underrated as a footballer, and I think in what I mean as a footballer, I mean as technically in possession, because in them days you didn't have that much time, especially at centre half. If you had 2 touches, you were lucky. Whereas now they have a lot more time to show how good they can be, if you like, or they're not pressed as much. So he could play as well, but he was an immense character, like I say, a leader, and I think every team needs one of those, and he definitely did that for this team that I played when I played with him. So yeah, for that I'd put him in my team.
Captain Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, had to be. Like I say, there's other players at other times. When I went to West Ham, Alvin Martin, fantastic player. Miguel, fantastic player. They were perhaps, with not being horrible to them, there was maybe not their purple patch, their career. That might have been before that, But for Fozzie, I thought that was his time. And like I say, personally, he helped me, talking me through the game. And sometimes he he was very aggressive with me, which I needed, switched me up. And then when you're older and you get more experience, you play the game and talk at the same time. When you're younger, you can't do both, you can't play and think, and like there's so much going on, whereas he could do both. He'd be making sure I was switched on and doing his own job at the same time. So I always appreciated him for that, and a great character. Like I say, every team needs one, and he definitely was that. So yeah, Fozzie would be my centre half.
I definitely agree with you. He was basically like having a manager on the field with you, wasn't it? Because he was so organised and so like making sure structural that we were right defensively, which is great,
Yeah. I think a lot, and that was probably something that before he came to the club was possibly missing, or from at that particular time, maybe when I was an apprentice and watching, you had like a Mick Saxby type guy who fans would know, and I remember he had his injuries and he was out of it, but he, as that type of character, every team sort of needed one, and I think we needed that at that time, and it was well documented about the spine of the team that was brought in by David Pleat, and I think he was obviously massive part of that.
Yeah, definitely. Next to Steve, Foster is
right. Again, I think especially in this position, you need players who can complement each other. So with Fozzie in there, he needed somebody or needs somebody around him who is very athletic, can cover the ground, will do the other side of the game that's not always noticed, and read off the one attacking the ball, that type of thing. And this guy did that very, very well, very unassuming.
International? International?
Yeah, I think he played quite a lot for his country in the World Cup as well. So yeah, an international. And like I said before, there's so many players that I played with that I could pick at centre half. But at this time, in my memory, this was sort of again his purple patch, and he went on to play for one of the biggest clubs in the country, which was no surprise. I think no surprise to us, but maybe to other people outside of the club, because he was one of those ones, unsung hero, who would be 8 out of 10 every week. Never drop. He'd always be there, go about his job, and a fantastic character, unassuming type. But yeah, very underrated, and could play in, modern day, play in midfield, play left back easy.
I had it, and then you keep giving me all these other clues, which put me off.
No,
stay strong, stick with it. Go on, just say it.
Rio Ferdinand.
Well, Rio's up there, but he was very young when he came through, and he's that type. But this guy was like a Rolls Royce as well. Rio was a Rolls Royce, but this guy was as well.
Who are you going for, Marv? Rio as well?
That's who I was going for. That's who I was going for.
Sorry, Rio, but
I thought he was a little bit young. I thought he was a little bit young.
Yeah. He was coming through. Frank Lampard, Joe Cole, that era, they were all coming through. I'll tell you a story. There's another story about Rio actually that comes to mind, but yeah, they were coming through. I remember him as a young lad actually. Have you got time for a quick story on Rio?
Go for it.
It'll give us a chance to try and think of this other player. It'll give us a chance.
No, I remember, because when you say about he was a young lad coming through, he was an apprentice at West Ham, and Tony Carr was the youth team manager. He used to get him in on a Monday, and he used to do a mile, like straight off mile. There you go, bang, on Monday morning. Forget about this, recovery day. Anyway, this one day they all come in from doing this mile, and all around the water butt trying to get some water and gasping and whatever. So Harry Redknapp was the manager. So Harry's come in and gone. He's gone, Rio. Who's the first man to do the 4-minute mile? So Rio's like, stop. It's like I know, boss, we're doing our best, but nobody's actually done it yet, like that, you know. So it's and I'm sure Harry must have told the story a bit better than me, but I just remember looking and thinking, oh, you know, Roger's Bannister, you know. It's like, oh, boss, you know, we're doing our best, but nobody's done near 4 minutes yet, you know. It's a classic. But
going back to your player, what country was it? International? England?
No.
See, give us a clue then. What country is it?
Northern
Ireland.
Yeah, Mal Donaghy.
There you go.
Mal Donaghy. Yeah. Like I say, fantastic player, unassuming, underrated, and like you say, a Rolls Royce. And I was lucky. I played with Slaven Bilic and Mark Reaper there. I said about Tony Gale. Steve Potts was an unbelievable centre half, very underrated. For his size, he won things in the air. He covered. He was very, very good. So he'd be up there as well, definitely for me. And a legend. Yeah, again, another one very similar to Mal in that he was never. Fans knew that he was a top player outside the club. People didn't always see it, but he won Player of the year on year. You know, so the fans could see it. But yeah, I was lucky. So sorry those ones, but just those two at the time as a compliment to each other were fantastic. I thought for Luton.
I had Mal in my mind, and then I forgot Mal went to Manchester United because I was thinking Rio's too young, and then when you said, I think it's Mal. And then you went to one of the top teams in the country. I forgot Mal went to United.
Yeah.
And Chelsea, didn't he?
Yeah. After that, yeah. Amazing, really, for for him to be recognised like that. And like I say, people who knew their stuff would see it, but it wasn't the sort of character who was always picked out as being a man of the match, but he'd always be there or thereabouts, you know, but very consistent and read the game well. Underrated.
Oh, definitely. So what we'll do is we'll pause at that point, and then after a advert, we will then hear from Tim Breaker's rest of his attacking formation. So be back in a minute from my best 11.
Hi, my name is Steve Davis. An ex-Burnley teammate of mine, Len JohnRose, is suffering from MND. Please let's raise awareness and funds and help Lenny in his fight against this terrible disease. Please check out #IceFoot92. You can donate £10 by texting MNDLEN to 70085 or donate at his Just Giving page. Are you brave enough to take on the #IceFoot92 challenge? Good luck and thanks for listening.
Great, so we're back for part 2 of My Best 11 podcast. Those people who've forgotten in our short ad break, Tim Breaker's here, and he's so far named Ludic McCloskey, Rob Johnson, Julian Dix, Steve Foster, and Mal Donaghy. So we're going to go into midfield. So you're holding midfielders that are going to do all the work because the rest of your team's attacking. Whichever one you prefer, Tim.
This player, he's going to dictate the play. He's going to be like Pirlo with Italy. He's that type of player. He can get on the ball and he'll keep the ball. He'll manoeuvre the ball. He'll find passes forwards. He'll pick people out. He'll have the ball in tight areas and get away from people. He'll play between lines. And out of possession, yeah, he could do with being a bit more athletic and bigger physically, if you like. But you know, I'm going for a proper all-out football team, and I need somebody like him who's going to just have the ball in tight areas and dictate the play. Nobody's going to get near him.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say,
club was he at? What club was this at? This played with.
This was at West Ham, and like I say, there's other players. I've had to leave out a defensive midfield player, like I mentioned Brian Orton previously. That type, Stevie Lomas was exactly like that. Fantastic and good captains, both of them. But I've gone very attacking, so I might be a little bit open when the ball turns over, but we'll deal with that later. But yeah, this player, he would have the ball anywhere, and if you didn't give it to him, he would let you know that he should have had it, and then eventually he'd say, "Hold on a minute, I just," you know, he wouldn't mind. But to start with, he don't care how many people's on him. He'll have the ball, you know, perfect for any team, and he wouldn't give it away. Very rarely would he give it away, you know. Let it run across his body, like the old Trevor Brooking used to do. But he could pass it. He'd chip in with the old goal, but he would dictate the play.
International?
He didn't quite make it as an international. No, I think a couple of 21s like myself, a B. I think he got in the B squad and whatever. But when I first went there, he was again one of those. I was very surprised how good a player he was, and
I mean, I'm getting at someone. Was he quite loud?
Not particularly. No, not particularly. He's a character. Fans like him.
I was thinking of, if it's not him then, John Moncur.
John Moncur's another one who I could have put in there because another very good footballer, and he was or is the funniest man I've ever met. Funniest man I've ever met. He just would make you laugh on a daily basis and do the most stupid things, and I was always the sort who couldn't help it but would have to laugh. It just so many stories I could tell you about him. Just even now it makes you laugh thinking about him. He's that sort, but he was a very good player as well. Very good player.
Have you got anyone?
No, I'm out.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. He came from, what clubs did he play for? Man City.
Yeah,
went back to Man
not
City.
Berkovic, is it?
No,
Oh.
no.
Mhm.
No, he was. What other clubs? Did he play for? Yeah, I forgot about Isle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
But he was more forward thinking.
He was more of a forward thing. But I'm trying to this play.
He says getting his pen out.
Yeah, he has. I mean,
Yeah.
he has the ball in tight
Yeah,
areas.
yeah, long hair, if that helps you.
Oh, no.
Oh, Ian Bishop.
Yeah, Bishop.
Yeah, you got him.
I don't know why the long hair is what clicks it for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he was very good. Like I say, one of those players. Personally, I loved it when players, you could just give them the ball in tight areas and they wouldn't give it away, and they'd always want it. And say an attacking team. You know, I think modern day midfielders probably more. I don't know, maybe there is some more technical like that, but a lot of them have to be athletes, you know. The days of sort of the Glenn Hoddles and possibly gone, you know, just very good technical players. But Bishop was definitely that, you know, very good technical player.
Excellent. So Ian Bishop. And next to Ian Bishop.
Well, I've gone for this
diamond.
You've
gone for a diamond, haven't you? So
yeah, I've got
Bishop's the holding.
So he's my holding man. To his right, I've gone for a player who, for me, one of the best players by far that I played with. Had everything really, technically, athletically, could score goals, did a job for the team out of possession, played for his country, deservedly so. I think in another era would have maybe had moves to bigger clubs, but yeah, and an absolute gentleman of a guy who, when I was, especially as a young apprentice, growing up, he was somebody to look up to, not just as a footballer, but as a person, you know. And I remember another story actually, that our reserve team manager was Trevor Hartley, and one day he got this guy, and we all. I probably was about 17, something like that, and got us in this into like a classroom environment, and just had a chat, and this guy walked in, and it was very much along the lines of, you know, how do you prepare for training, how do you mentally prepare for games, physically, how do you look after yourself? And when this player told all of us that he did all these things and how hard he'd had to work to be, and he just made it look so easy, you know, made it look so simple. He was always the best player, and nicest man and everything. You know, he didn't even look like he just looked so simple to him. But when I thought, wow, he has to do all these things, then I'd better make sure I'm doing them all. You know, definitely. So I got no chance. What chance have I got? You know, and I remember it was one of those penny drop moments. But he was absolute legend. Like I say, one of the best players I've ever played with by far, and against. You know,
Marv? Yeah.
Ricky Hill?
Absolutely, yeah. And again, another one who would have the ball any position on the pitch, and you know, say with players now where they play out, he would be able to do that easily. You know, you could give him the ball, and he's so strong, could get past people, score goals, create. Very, very technically very good, and an absolute legend of a man as well. You know, or you know him, Marv.
Right in the end. He was our guest a few weeks ago.
Was he?
Yeah.
No, fair. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, sometimes you don't even get a chance to tell those players what they meant to you back then, especially as a young lad coming through and seeing him, and actually then being able to go on the pitch and play with him. You know.
Yeah.
And he was on the side of the pitch, and I always loved playing with players like Ricky, who, like I say, you could just give them the ball and make runs off them, and they find you. And later on in my career, I played with people like Kevin Keane, who was like that, underrated but very technically good. Mike Marsh, I played with him a bit, and I always liked playing with those players who would have the ball at any time and would find you with a pass. And you know, as you know, Marv, I like to run forward and attack, and they would find you. You know, you wouldn't be worried about giving them the ball and then making a run forward that they're going to give it away. Put it that way. You know?
Right.
And like Ricky, absolute legend.
Oh, definitely. And I think he's been the most picked player so far. And I know he's been very
everyone.
heavily Luton, but I think he's been the most picked player so far.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think people maybe outside of the club wouldn't have expected that, you know. But you know, you see it on a day-to-day basis when you see somebody in training and things that they can do with a ball that you sort of dream of, you know. And yeah, absolute legend and underrated. And I mean, when you think he played for England at a time when you look at some of the players that they had, and he was playing for Luton, which was obviously at the time not so much a top six club or anything, so it's really hard to get in that England squad, and he did it, you know, and rightly so.
Yeah, well, he mentioned some stories like you did about Spurs and things like that. So, I like most players. Back then, you didn't really know because there was no agents. So
no, and you know, you could absolutely see all the big clubs would have wanted him. You could play for any club in the country easily. You'd think, you know, but yeah, that was the way it was. You didn't get to hear, and you know, I remember he had his testimonial at the club and everything, and then moved on. That was more how it was. You know, you got to that sort of time, maybe have a testimonial, and then you're allowed to go. But nowadays, it's very different.
I don't think I've seen a testimonial for years.
Probably won't.
So, the other side, Ricky's on the right. Who's on the left?
Well, another player who's perfect for this sort of position and used to play that way, tucked in off the left-hand side, would have the ball in tight areas, not particularly pacey or anything, but didn't need to, could pick people out with passes, could create, again, very underrated. And yeah, really liked him as a unassuming character, as a player. He another one who could quite easily have played at higher or at a a top six club, if you like, and be comfortable in it. You know, good enough technically. But not many people would probably realise how good he was. But for that sort of position to play that way, other ones more out-and-out wingers. I played with Kingsley, very good player. You know, ones that come to mind, like Stan Lazaridis, who was like a quicker, forward-thinking player, Stuart Slater, who was a left winger coming inside on his right foot, but out and out wingers, you know. But this sort of system I've got these players in a narrow position, if you like, so they're comfortable in the middle of the pitch and not just out and out wingers. So yeah, this player would be
at Luton. At Luton, he was with his player.
Yeah, it was at Luton. Yeah, it was at Luton, and played in a 3 then in a time when, you know, perhaps it was quite different. You know, quite different to what a lot of teams played traditionally 4-4-2, and at the time he played in a team in a 3 in a different sort of shape, as it were, that suited what we had at the time. But yeah, very, very, very good player. Very, very good player.
Is it David Priest?
It was Marv. Yeah, it was David Priest. Yeah, bless him.
Bless him.
Yeah. But yeah, really, really another unassuming guy, but did the work in and out possession. Could create, could see a pass, play around corners, set things up, have the ball in tight areas. Not particularly blessed with, you know, particular athleticism, if you like, but strong enough, hold people off, bring people into play. Very clever player. So
he
yeah,
was the king of the Megs. Him.
Yeah,
he just kept megging everyone, and he used to just do it constantly.
Yeah.
Was he so small he nutmeg people then ran through their legs as well?
Yeah, he's one of them. Mini.
I've never seen anyone get as many megs as he did in games, training, and you knew it was coming, but you just couldn't do nothing about it.
Do you guys as professionals shout what everybody else does on the street about shout megs and then just keep running? Or do you have to... Okay, I wasn't sure if politically you don't do that in training.
No, Precy, he'll do it, and he'll have like 3 or 4 players on the opposing team wanting to do him over because he's giggling when he's doing it as well. He's laughing.
And during a game, do you do it? Do you guys shout it during a game just to really annoy the other person?
Andrew, I'm telling you now, I've played many a game with Precy, and Precy shouts it, and he's giggling. You can hear him laughing, running away with the ball. You can hear him laughing.
Yeah.
I'd love to know that. I suppose with COVID, you can probably hear it these days, but generally you can't because of the crowd.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's funny. That's very funny. So, David Priest. Then we move up the positions, up the pitch.
Yeah. In my system, I've got this diamond. So at the top of the diamond, I've got somebody who again, probably for me, I've got these players and I'm putting them into a situation that would suit them, and I think this would suit him down to the ground. And he sort of played in that withdrawn position a lot of the times anyway, especially when I played with him. But very underrated. You know, he's a striker, but he's playing in that position where he would link the play, see a pass, get in the box and can finish. Could have the ball with his back to goal as well. But some of those players you play in that sort of position, it's a bit of a luxury, but he wouldn't be a luxury there. He would create, and you know, he would do the other side of the game, use his body physically to help out defensively. You know, I mean, the other players that I played with who could have done that, people like you mentioned, Berkovic before. He was very, very technically good. Frank Lampard was coming through, and he was like a midfield player running forward. And probably he would say, you know, he wasn't quite at the levels when I played with him. He was very young, just coming through. And when he went on in his career, you know, fair play to him. Don Hutchinson was a bit like that as well. Was played in behind, very good technically. And could play in that position quite easily, but I've gone for somebody who's really known more as a striker. But I think he would perfectly suit that position because he would get forward from there. I mean, later on in my career, we had a few foreign ones who it used to be a bit of not a joke, but you know, you'd say to players, "Where do you play?" And it was number 10. And all the lads would think, "Oh, right, yeah, you don't really want to do anything defensively."
Are you talking people like Paulo Futre and Radicchoi and people like
that? Yeah. Hugo Porfirio was a brilliant player, but it was so different for them coming to English football. They didn't. The other one was Dimitrescu.
There was all these players around Euro 96, wasn't there? Suddenly after Euro 96, there was just an influx of players from kind of Romania and Czech Republic and places like that.
Well, we had a few of them. I can remember Illy's first day at training, actually. And I can remember it because it was just one of them surreal things where I was with the physio and we were jogging around. I think I was doing a recovery or something. He was just doing a session, and he was just walking into the change room, and the session was going on, and the physio's gone, we better have a jog over. I don't know what he's done, first day training sort of thing, new signing. So we've gone up to him, and he's gone, Illy, what's up? Everything all right? He went, yeah. He said, today, no enthusiasm from me. It's like, what do you mean? He said, today I have no enthusiasm. So he just walked in. I want massage, and that was it. He walked in, and we couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Your first day at the club. You haven't got enthusiasm first day at the club.
First day was like, today, no enthusiasm. And he was an unbelievable technical player, but you just thought it was such a different, you couldn't do that, You couldn't do that in the UK and get away with it in England in that league. And you just couldn't be a luxury. But and Radicchio was similar in certain ways because he, again, technically was a player, but we played a pre-season game down at Torquay, and I think it was John Gittins was centre half, and after about 5 minutes he completely went through him in a pre-season game, and he just wasn't expecting it. And from then on, you thought he was waiting for the next one to come before, when he was controlling it or whatever he was trying to do technically. You saw it in training, but didn't see it in the games because you thought, does he really want to be here, and with the physicality, But my player would be there, come rain or shine, he'd be there and he'd have the ball and he'd score and he'd create and he'd do the other side. So that's why he'd be in my team.
Brian, Steen?
You got Marv? Yes, Marv. Yeah, you got him. Very good player. Very good player.
Naturally, he drifted into that role anyway, didn't he, Steely, to be fair to him. And like you said, I mean, a terrific player, especially with his back to goal. I think Ricky mentioned it in his podcast. He was even more dangerous when he had his back to goal than he was when he faced you up. Because he used to have that little drop on the shoulder, didn't he, and just turn and get a shot off. And, Mark was similar, wasn't he? Birdman was similar, very similar.
Yeah, Mark's very, very similar. And again, like I said earlier, when you think of ones who were at the height of their career, Brian probably was in them years, And I looked up to him as well as a strong character who helped me massively. Would take you under his wing and give you a few words away from the lads and whatever, and a few things he said to me. And even once I remember him and Ricky actually, which are probably this was we had a new manager. I don't want to say too much, but I was having an absolute nightmare in this game. I was having an absolute nightmare, and it was one of them. Well, you probably know, Marv, when you get the ball and the manager's sort of telling you what to do with the ball, and it was all nice movement in training, and it just wasn't on for me. And I was, first half, I was absolutely having a nightmare. And I think Steenie and Ricky realised it. So as we're walking out, second half, I'm thinking, oh no, because the manager was sort of like, get it, do this, do it. And I was confused, really. So they just said, listen, you're a good player. Just don't worry about it. Just get the ball, give it to me. I'll have it, play, and we'll play. So I thought, yeah, sod it. And I did. And second half, it was chalk and cheese. It was great. And afterwards, everyone was like, well played. That's what I want. So it sort of penny dropped on me a little bit. I was trying too hard to please the manager because the things that he wanted to do weren't particularly on. Whereas these two were just like, listen, don't worry. Just play and give me the ball. We'll have it and we'll play. And you'll play. Whereas by the time I got it, I was thinking what the manager wanted me to do, and that wasn't on. And then I was closed down, lose the ball.
We lost him. Oh,
Hello.
has he gone?
So I've just written down. Hey, he's
There
back.
he's back. We
Oh,
lost.
I looked at
We
that. I was
lost you for
talking
a
away
split.
to myself.
We lost you for a split second there. Well, more than a split second.
Yeah.
He was
We were
talking away
worried.
and- yeah. I mean, you talking about because Brian was a goal scorer. Tim, I mean, I think maybe you a little bit similar to myself. I mean, I don't remember you scoring that many goals at Luton or right throughout your career, but I do remember one particular goal away at Derby.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was not involved that day, but I went to the game. That wasn't something we worked on, though, was it? No, I know. Go on, tell us. It was a hell of a strike, by the way. I mean, and against the big man, Peter Shilton.
Yeah. Pick that one out, Schultz. It was one of them, wasn't it? I don't know where. Well, it's a bit of a long story, but I had a toe injury from Boxing Day, believe it or not, and from then on, for the rest of the season, I had to get a jab in my toe before every game, and we didn't always have a doctor travel with us, so I used to go to everywhere around the country we played, and I used to get a jab, and it would just numb it, and I'd get through the game, sort of thing. Anyway, on that day, I had the jab. I remember my foot was still numb, and the game was just about to start, and my foot was numb as anything. I thought, oh no. But anyway, that's probably why it flew in. But I just remember, and my dad had followed my career everywhere, and he was great, and he knew there was a lot of nerves leading up to the game, and he wrote me a letter basically, and it was along the lines of, listen, you can do anything you want, and just believe in it, and that type of letter, and don't worry, just you're good enough, and that sort of thing, and I just had that feeling, no matter what, even though I couldn't feel my foot, I just felt confident. And I remember it was like pre-season, and I just said to him, look, I fancy this. He's like, really, do you? I went, yeah. And he just knocked it to the side, and I just smashed it, and it went in. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
It was a hell of a
Yeah,
goal.
that was the story behind it.
I have to see if we can find it on YouTube.
It should be on there.
I've seen it once.
Oh, it's up there, is it? Have you seen it once?
I'm sure I've seen it once. One of my lads found it and said, "Have you seen this, Dad?" I went, "Yes." Was that really me? Are you sure? And yeah.
How many goals did you score, Tim? How many goals
in my whole career?
Yeah.
Do you know what, Marv? I don't actually know, but it weren't many. I didn't
more
score.
than 10. More than 10.
I don't think it was. I think it was under 10.
Well, I mean, I think I'm 9. I think I'm 9 or 10. I've always tried to scrape to the 10 to get double figures. I've always tried to I'll scurry it and say, yeah, that came off me. That it was 10. It was 10. Yeah. But yeah, I bet.
No.
You still think you're in single figures, Tim?
Yeah, I think I am. Yeah, I think I am. I've tried. I don't want to sort of. It wasn't my thing anyway, but I start remembering. Yeah, what about that one? And then
you not start taking penalties just to get yourself up, or do you include penalty shootouts in it?
Nah, we never had it. I can't remember even having a penalty shootout because you never had them then, did you?
No.
They just went replay after replay after replay, didn't they?
yeah. It was replays, and Julian Dix was the penalty taker, and at West Ham, and he used to smash him, and he didn't miss. Nobody was going to get a penalty off him, but no, I remember I never scored at Kenilworth Road, and there's one time I can almost picture it now when it was on the plastic pitch, and it was getting a bit of a joke that I'd never scored at Kenilworth Road, and the ball's come flying through. I think it was against Wimbledon, and I controlled it as it bounced, and then as the ball bounced in front of me, it's like an open goal. But as my foot come down, so I put one foot up quite high, as it come down, it clipped my other foot, and I went over in the penalty area, and the ball just ran through to the keeper. And it was one of those moments that I wake up thinking, how did I miss that? You know, it was forgotten, but I can remember it. I can remember it. You wanted the earth, you know, to swallow you up, sort of thing, you know.
So you've tripped yourself up?
I tripped myself up with an open goal, yeah. Yeah, literally controlled it. And my eyes were open, like, oh, this is it. I'm actually going to score it. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I tripped myself.
Was that before the Derby goal? I'm guessing, yeah.
Yeah, it must have been, because the Derby goal was literally my last full season at Luton. And I remember I met with the West Ham chief scout was at a meeting when I met Billy Bonds, and he asked me about that goal. I went, yeah, no problem. He used to practice all the time. He trained. I can do that all the time.
He's expecting a goal-scoring fullback.
Yeah. You want to see him take 3 kicks.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Was it a case that your contract was up at Luton, or was it a case that you thought, well, they've come in for me, West Ham, and I want to try somewhere else? And was there any other clubs alongside West Ham who were interested?
My contract, I was in my last year anyway, and there was rumours of other clubs, but I hadn't spoken to anybody. But it was almost known to everybody, all the players at the time, that everybody's going, they're all for sale. I think even the season before, like you mentioned, when we stayed up last game of the season, and it was an unbelievable feat to stay up because we were dead and buried, you know. And I just remember the leading up to deadline day was a bit of like, who are we going to sign? We've got to sign some players, we need some help, sort of thing. And then the rumours were that they were trying to get rid. They're trying to get rid, you know. And you know, obviously we stayed up.
Everyone bar me.
No, you were the main man. They said we've got to build this future around you, Marv. Yeah, it was no surprise then when West Ham came in, and there was talk about Villa at the time as well. But you know, it was back in them days, say no agent, you just, they've agreed a fee, and you go and I remember talking to the chairman at Luton and saying, well, you know, if I stay, I might be able to get testimonial, sort of thing. And he's, no, you're not staying, you're going, sort of thing. You know, it was a bit like that. You're going, oh, all right, okay. You know, and luckily I joined a very good club and enjoyed myself there. And it was very similar to Luton in terms of the way that they played football and things they appreciated. And yeah, I was very lucky in my career, to be honest, very lucky.
And who did you support growing up, Tim? Oxford, because you're close to Oxford, or?
I was actually, I know what you're going to say when I tell you, you're going to say I was a trophy hunter, but I believe it or not, I wasn't. I was a Liverpool fan.
Oh,
it's two of you.
Yeah, I was as well, Tim. My reason being is because I've said it before. The first FA Cup final I can remember watching, which was live, and remembering was when they lost to Manchester United in 1977. So I thought, they've lost. I want to support Liverpool, and that was my reasoning behind that.
What was your reasoning, Tim?
Mine was different, actually. I was that small, and I remember my neighbour. I looked up to him, and we used to go and kick a ball about, and he said to me, if anyone asks you, you tell them you support Liverpool. So I was like, all right, yeah, you know, the big boys telling me to do that, that's what I'm going to do. And it was only later on that I realised that they weren't any good then. It was before Shankly went there. It was that I was only like 4 or 5 years old, you know, and he was my neighbour then. I looked back and I thought, no, they weren't that great, but I was lucky that I ended up supporting a really good team. And then it was, like I say, my first memories really was that Keegan and Toshak partnership, and in the watching them on Match of the Day and that sort of thing, you know, and the crowd there, and I loved it, you know, and I loved the club and what it stood for and the players, and yeah, and was lucky enough to play there one day. So that was one of them sort of dream things that I wanted to do. So yeah.
Oh, excellent. So moving on to Strikeforce, playing in front of Brian.
Yeah, well, I think for me, most team needs some physical presence up there, and there was 2 players that came to mind when I thought about this, and but one of them shaded it really, because same thing as before, he was in like the prime of his career when I played with him. Was physical presence a target for you, but also very underrated technically, could score goals, bring people into the play, great touch, headed goals with his feet, and a fantastic player, and somebody, you know, like I mentioned before about when you're coming through as young player, and they give you a great impression of what's important in the game in terms of a lot of things that you don't know when you're young, and he was another one of those, and an absolute legend of a guy, but you know, an underrated technical footballer, and another one who played for his country. Maybe at the time he wasn't as rated before I played with him, actually, nothing to do with me, but then went on to play for other clubs and had a very, very good career, and deservedly so, a very good player. But and another one who was, sorry, another one who was like that was very similar, and maybe even looked up to him. I don't know, because they both were, I don't know if they're in the club at the same time, maybe not, but I played with him later on in my career. Was similar type, very, very good, but yeah, one of them shaded it. So
I was going to say, were they both at the same club, but maybe not at the same time?
Well, they, yes.
No,
yeah.
I would have said like Mick Hartford is the one you choose it, and the one who's like a similar John Hartson.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well done, Marv. Yeah. Both of them very good players. Physical, obviously, both physical, but technically good as well. Technically good, and something that I think you don't see that so much now in terms of that type of player, but back then as well. You know, when there was a lot of blood and thunder football, you needed players like that, and I think like the technicality that they had sometimes was overlooked because of the physical side. And you used to get games where you used to think, you know, with Mick and Johnny Hartson, that if the ref, after the first foul, for some reason the ref didn't like them, that was it. Then, you know, it was going to be a hard day for them, because they're all, if they went near anybody, the ref would blow his whistle. But other days, you know, they would be using their body to great effect. But if they didn't, they're both technically very, very good, very underrated.
Yeah. Do you still have a lot to do with Mick? Obviously in your current role, do you still chat to him?
I speak to Mick, yeah. Used to see him a lot more out at games, not so much now because I'm not out as much as I used to be. Bump into him all the time, yeah, definitely. And speak on the phone, but yeah, he's an absolute legend of a guy. Fantastic job he's done, and you know, well thought of at Luton, deservedly so. You know, he's done a lot for the club, and I think it's, you know, obvious that he's got a great love, deep love for the club. But I was lucky that I was there with him. And like I say, fantastic player, but also a fantastic man and a great bloke.
Yeah, I mean, to you two gents, you were there when he came back. Am I right in saying that? Am I got my dates right? I didn't leave. No, I meant when Mick Hartford came back. Not you came back. When Mick Hartford came back. Were you there when he came back as well, Tim?
No. He left. I'm sure he left because that game at Derby we mentioned, he played for Derby that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't sure if he joined just in time. But I was just wondering, what was your guys' opinion when he came back in? But obviously you weren't there, Tim, so I got my dates mixed up in terms of the late 80s, early 90s, around that time. But Marv, what was it like when he came back in the club?
Oh, I mean, he's come home. It was like, I mean,
did it feel like that?
Yeah, it did. And I think if you spoke to Mick about it, he's always going to have that connection. And I think he always had that connection, even though he was away playing at other clubs. I mean, I've mentioned it before. I mean, I've not been in the position to experience other clubs, and there's, I mean, so maybe it's something with Tim you could, I mean, speak about is that when you like play for Luton and then you go somewhere else. Yes, I mean, I think there's obviously some very good and ambitious clubs out there, but there's always something which still holds a little affection for you with Luton for some reason as a player, in my opinion. I mean, and that's why I think so many ex-players come back and re-signed over a period of their career.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with what you're saying, Marv. And, you know, I felt lucky that I played for, you know, well, 3 clubs, but 2 of them were very similar. QPR had that sort of feeling about it, but I wasn't there that long. As a player, I was longer there. I served longer as a coach, basically, there. But, and I think as well, when you come through somewhere and the feeling within the club of the family, people say a family club, and people outside of it think, what does that mean? But there was that atmosphere around the place of the people and the staff, not just, you know, the players, and the way that you know, that there was a camaraderie amongst everybody at the club, you know, especially sometimes when you're not, you know, almost when you're batting above your station at times, which for me at my time there, you know, it was always in the top division, so I was quite lucky like that, you know, and a lot of it was, you know, there was relegation fights, but we got through them, and you sort of got. I remember Jimmy Ryan when he was manager at Luton, and that season when we survived, and him saying to us, you know, listen, if you survive and you get through this, this will be something you'll remember for the rest of your career and life, and because of the people you were with, and that you'd achieve something, albeit, you know, against the odds, that type of thing. And I think at Luton the supporters understood that, you know, and I was lucky at West Ham. It was very much like that as well. As long as you know, people thought about these clubs, and I remember the first day I signed at West Ham, Frank McAvenny was there. And he was a legend at the club, and he was playing in the reserves that day. He was coming back from a bad injury, and we just chatted, and he said, listen, if you first chance you get, don't worry about technically, you're not going to be, you're going to be judged on that. But he said, if you get a chance to put somebody in the chicken run, just do it, and they'll love it, you know. In other words, if you're giving everything for the team,
right,
they'll forgive other things, you know, because they want to see that. And Luton was like that, you know. Yeah. Okay, they want to see football, they want to see that side of it, but it's not just about going out, and you had to do it, you had to do the other side and show that you care, and then they cared for you. And it was like that sort of feeling at both of them clubs for me, and I think that's why people go back there with happy memories and of good times, you know. And like I say, even for me, there was some good times. Also, there was times when you you know, backs against the wall and you come through a relegation battle, that sort of thing, you still remember with pride, if you like. You feel like it left something with you in terms of the rest of your career, you know.
Yeah. Tim, so you came through the ranks similar to myself. Who was your youth team coach when you were coming through, and what other players were there that went on to have a career, if not at Luton?
Well, the legend was John Moore. He was fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and, you know, I see, like, brings a smile to your face, and I think about him, and he was fantastic for me, as he was a lot of the lads then at that time, and you know, not just in terms of technical things and, you know, training and your body and all sorts, but there was just things he sort of helped you to grow up, and, you know, made you realise about things, and his morals and everything about it, and the way you treat people was something that, you know, I think was fantastic, not just in terms of, you know, you becoming a footballer, but a person. And we had a really good group then. You know, Mitchell was there, Mitchell Thomas. Obviously, Mitch would have been in my team as well if Julian hadn't come along. Then Ray Daniels, who went on to have a career, Stacey North, Gary Parker was the year above. Another one I should have mentioned is a midfield player. I'm sorry, somebody's trying to ring me. Yeah, trying to think of what other ones were there. Was Alex Chamberlain was later, wasn't he? I think. Who else was in our youth team then? But we did have a good. We got through to the FA Youth Cup semi-final.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and in them days it was a big thing, and we played Norwich 2 legs, and I think there was about 10,000 at Norwich for the second leg, something like that. It was fantastic, and I just remember after the game, you know, David Pleat was there, and he just came in afterwards and said, "Listen, you've done well, everybody," and he said, "I'll tell you now, there'll be more out of you guys who'll make it than in the other dressing room." And he was right. He was right. I don't know the exact facts of it, but I remember looking a couple of years later and thinking, "Oh yeah, he was absolutely right there." You know, players who still played and had careers, and you know, rather than just disappeared and didn't have a career.
Yeah.
And that was all testament to John Moore, David Coates, Trevor Hartley later on as well. They were all very good for me personally, and I think a lot of the lads at the time, you know. So yeah, very lucky.
Great. Excellent. So next to Mick Harford, who have we got, Tim?
Well, this is part of my little plan of this team. Is it's a mixture of creativity, a big man, and then around him, then I've got somebody who I played with who probably others might not think will get in this team, but for me, he was another underrated one. He was one of those players, and when I was coaching, I used to talk to players, and it was something that was when you had the ball, he made your mind up, and with his movement, and his movement was very, very good. He could hold the ball up. Again, could bring people into play, win headers, but his movement was better than people give him credit for. I mean, I was lucky to play with some very good centre forwards, but they weren't maybe at the top of their game at the time. I mean, I mentioned Frank McAvenny when I went to West Ham was there. Tony Cottee came back to the club later on. Clive Allen came to the club, and what an unbelievable finisher that guy was. He was some finisher. Another player, well, we mentioned Mark Steen before, very good player. Yeah. Another one who, back in the Luton days, Mecca Narjobi. Mecca was an unbelievable player and unlucky with his injury. So yeah, there was quite a lot of strikers. Paul Kitson came to West Ham for a bit as well. Good finisher, and another one like this player who would run the channels. But this type of player in my mix, I've got the big man. I've got somebody who's going to run the channels for me, run all day. He's going to make good runs in behind, stretch the opposition. Then Brian will get on the ball. Ricky will manoeuvre it. We'll get crosses in. We'll be dominant.
Is this player from West Ham days?
He's from West Ham days, yeah.
I've just guessed that. And Andrew, I'm trying to think.
Jermaine Defoe?
Pardon?
Jermaine Defoe?
No, he would have been a couple of years quite a few years after me actually, but yeah, he was coming through the ranks, I think.
I know he was coming through in the late 90s. That's why I wasn't sure if you saw a lot of him.
I was thinking of Kitson, but you've already said Kitson. That's who I was thinking of originally.
Kitson came. It's funny at West Ham, there was a little bit of a, like the Luton one, where we were struggling a bit, and Harry brought in Johnny Arts and Kitson, brought in David Burrows at left back. He did a bit of transfer work, if you like. Lee Chapman was there for a bit, but these were players, I played a bit with them. Maybe was it their purple patch, if you like, but this guy at the time, when I played with him, and like I say,
a goal scorer,
he scored his fair share. Yeah, he wasn't an out and out, not like a Tony Cottee or like I say, Clive Allen. He's finishing. He wasn't an out and out finisher. He did a bit of everything. I'm getting him. He's running the channels. He's running in behind. He's holding the ball up. I just got this memory of getting the ball, and you'd know there'd be this telepathy. You'd know where he wanted it.
Right.
You just knew, and it was his movement. His movement just made you.
He wasn't an international, was he?
No. No,
Oh.
he came from lower leagues. He was at bigger club before.
Was he at Norwich?
I don't think so, Marv. It
Okay.
began with an N, but he was at Northampton.
No, my mind's gone.
Northampton, hold on.
With one of the other players I mentioned, who's my holding midfield player, they were synonymous together, and they signed.
Oh.
I think they signed together from Man City. Tell you another. You mentioned Kevin Gallen. He's another one I've forgotten about. Kev, I played with Kev for a bit.
Obviously, the one
QPR.
The one I was thinking of Norwich was I know it's not him, Dean Ashton.
No, he came. He was.
It'd have been after. It'd have been, yeah.
What was the? Oh, he's got dark hair, isn't he? This guy up front, centre forward.
Dark hair. Yeah.
Dark hair.
Yeah. I think he played for Reading as well. I think he played for Reading. Started at Northampton.
Nah, too early in the morning. I'm done.
Want me to tell you?
Yeah, go on. You've done us. You've done us.
Trevor Morley.
Trevor Morley. I could see him, dark hair, Trevor Morley.
Yeah. He was a very good player. And like I say, in my team, I need somebody. At Luton, Mark Steen did it sometimes. Mecca did it sometimes. They did that running when Brian played a little bit deeper.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what my team is with my diamond. I need that man who's going to run the channels, and he's doing that for me all day.
I mean, there's one name I'm surprised isn't on the team sheet, and I'm probably going to be stuffed up with dates again. Did you play with Di Canio?
That's who I was thinking of, Di Canio.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did you play with Di Canio?
Very briefly, only a few times. He came in. He was the one that came off. I can't think of many of the other foreign signings that we signed at the time that really happened, but he was one that it did obviously happen there.
Well, you didn't sign him from a foreign club, though, did you? You just signed him from Sheffield Wednesday.
Sheffield Wednesday, yeah, Sheffield Wednesday. Because I think I'm not sure. I think he had the thing with the ref, didn't he? Was it because?
Yeah, I think he was still suspended when you bought him or something.
It's a little bit like the Cantona one, wasn't it? Like he sort of Leeds they had enough of him, and then Man United, got him, and unbelievable. But
yeah. Sorry. Anyway, we got so Trevor Morley. What's it about Trevor? So you mentioned quite a lot about him. How would he complement Mick? Is it
his movement? Did you say
movement, running? Yeah, I think sometimes when you get partnerships, you need somebody who's gonna stretch the opposition and not just playing in front of them, and he would do that. Like I say, with clever little movement, he'd be coming towards the ball and then he'd spin and then he'd want the ball, and you could find him, and he'd do, he'd do defenders with his movement as much as anything else, and he's quite strong, could finish, but again, for me, he was underrated. Like other ones who came along, and there were some great players, like I say. But I just think at the time he would complement Mick and Steenie together. It's either that I was going to go 4-4-2, but I thought no, I'm going to go with the diamond. And
that's a good team. I like that team.
Trevor's in that. And
so
yeah,
which manager's going to manage that team then, or lead that team?
I think it's going to have to be David Plea. It's sort of his team that I think he could relate to in terms of the shape and things and the movement of the players and I think things that he liked. You still there, guys?
Yeah, we're still there, but you.
Hold on. No, it just says low battery on my thing, but I'm plugged into the electric. So how's that working?
I don't know.
I better have a word with the missus. She won't put the money in the meter.
Well, carry on talking, see if it comes back.
Hold on. Is that it?
There we go.
There we are. Sorry, technical hits. But yeah, manager would have to be David Pleat. I thought he was very good, especially for myself at the time, and things he helped me with, and I took throughout my career. And so I think when that team, I remember him putting together that team that did so well in the 80s. That it wasn't, most teams were sort of 4-4-2 very much so, but we never really played that. We had a different shape a lot of the time. Or if we did, it was, you know, different players complementing each other, not sort of traditional positions. And I think that he was quite ahead of his time in terms of that. And you know, Marv, for me, the managers who, when you knew what they were going to say, you expecting they were going to, you know, maybe have a go at you because you were losing, or if you were doing well, think you were going to get, you never knew what you were going to get. You never knew if you were going to get a pat on the back, or you didn't know what you were going to get. So you was always on your toes like that with him. And I think he was very clever. And like I say, he encouraged me a lot in terms of practicing and working and you know, my technique, and he helped me a lot. You know, Billy Bonds was the manager at West Ham, signed me, and he was fantastic as an absolute legend of a bloke. When you say about athlete, I remember playing in his second testimonial, and he was unbelievable. It was his second testimonial. He was a manager, and there was about 20,000 there. It was unbelievable. And cross country running, he beat most of the players. Of the players, yeah. Yeah, he was some athlete and an absolute gentleman of a bloke, a legend of a bloke, you know. But for me, completely at the time with that.
David Pleat.
Okay.
Fantastic. And right now, what are you up to right now? Just for the listeners who don't keep up to date with particularly lower leagues football. Where are you at right now, Tim?
I'm not actually anywhere right now. My last club was, I did a bit of work for Sunderland. A very good friend of mine was manager there, Phil Parkins, and I've worked with him. I was his assistant manager at Charlton, and then we parted ways for a little bit, and then I went and worked with him at Bradford and Bolton, and then Sunderland. So yeah, that was more scouting side at those places where I was a coach at Charlton with him. Before that, I was a coach with Ian Holloway at QPR, then Plymouth, then Leicester. Then I went to Charlton, then I went to Millwall coaching, and then scouting with Phil. So that was my last job, scouting.
So which one do you enjoy the most, coaching or scouting?
Definitely coaching, to be honest. I think if you, for me, number one, playing, number two, coaching. If you can't play anymore, coaching jobs is harder to come by. And luckily, scouting wise, with Phil, we're good friends anyway, but he would ask me about the coaching side of things, not his coaches, but in terms of the opposition. I used to go and watch his opposition all the time. So, you know, often he'd ring me when he got their team and say, what do you think they're going to do with this or that? And so I still had a coaching head on when I was watching opposition and things, and I really enjoyed that.
So you weren't necessarily going out looking for kids coming through and stuff like that. You were more opposition before the games kind of thing.
Yeah, I sort of dovetailed the two. At the clubs that I worked with him, we never had a great deal of money in terms of having a big department. So I did a bit of everything during the week. I'd be all over the country watching younger players and possible loan targets or ones who are, you know, going to be let go sometimes, you know, that type of thing. And then on a Saturday, it'd be next opponent, no matter where it was, you know. So that, like I said, I found that really interesting. But sometimes you're on your own a lot as a scout. You know, you're sort of listening to the result coming through as you're going out of a game, rather than, you know, when you're a coach and your team scores, it's fantastic. You know, you're there, you're like one of the team, whereas you're listening to it on the radio. It's not quite the same. But yeah, one of my best ones in the scouting one was when we was at Bradford. picked Chelsea. We got Chelsea in the cup, and I went and watched them at Swansea. Mourinho was manager, and they were the best team I'd seen for. Well, obviously I was watching the lower league teams anyway, but and they were very, very good. And I thought, oh no, we're going to get absolutely battered, you know. And and I think they got beat by Yeovil, Bradford. I think they got beat by Yeovil, and he was on the bus on the way back, and he rang me and said, "Go on then, what about Chelsea?" I went, "Oh my God, how many buses you got? How many buses?" It was like that. It was, but we come up with a game plan, and then the next week when they played them, I was at Colchester, I think, and one of the lads I used to play with, Mark Bircham, was there, and he was like, he's a proper take the piss, you know. And he said, "Your boys are winning." I went, "Yeah, good one, all right, Birch." So he went, No, they're winning. And then I walked out, just a couple of minutes to go, and I think they were 3-2 up. And I thought, I'll just hold on. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that they were winning. I got in my car, and he said, "Oh, we're going over to Stamford Bridge." And I thought, oh no, blimey, how long's left? Are they going to be able to hold on for a draw and get a replay? And it's like, Bradford has scored again. It's 4-2. I honestly couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And that was the satisfaction of, as much as you get when you're scouting, you know, it's like you're sort of cheering in the car on your own sort of thing. But yeah, so that's where I'm at, really. The scouting's the latest thing I've done.
Excellent. And final question before Marv and I actually shoot off is, Marv always likes to ask this, but I don't know if he's asking it today, is your favourite Luton game you've ever played in, and why?
Well, I think the reason, because I probably know the answer. I mean, but just go ahead and say that. And I'm curious as well, Tim, to find out, what age was you when you played in that final?
I was 20. I was 22.
Still young. That's still quite young, isn't it? I mean, I was an 18-year-old, like in and out of the team, just like covering for Fozzie or Mal as and when, if there was an injury. But you was always when I was like on the outside, I always saw you as which you was anyway, a regular. But I thought, as a regular, I just looked upon you as maybe like a 25, 26. Oh, and then now just talking to you, it's amazing to think that you were still quite young.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. Honestly, Marv, you've done me there with your maths, but I didn't feel, I didn't feel like I would just come into the team, put it that way, you know. I did at the FA Cup semi-final. That was biggest game at that age. I was 18 then. That was 85. But
85.
Yeah, and that was, you just think that those things are going to come along all the time somehow, because it happened then at that time. Oh, it's an FA Cup semi-final, and I just remember Ricky scoring, and I was one of the first ones there, and we were screaming, literally screaming, and the fans. It was amazing. We didn't hold on, but yeah, the Littlewoods Cup Final was just something I'll never forget. And
was that the greatest moment in your career?
Probably, yeah, because you know, you think it might happen again, and we were there the next year and it didn't. And then I was involved in semi-finals, never got to the FA Cup final, and you just never know, do you? But when you think back, you think, yeah, and because we were underdogs as well, and the way the game went, and my biggest memory of the game, we scored to go 3-2 up, and myself and Mal were towards the halfway line, and the ref was coming back. It wasn't like everybody went around to celebrate. It's like you're a defender, like we've got a hold, you know. So me and Mal went to the ref, said, "How long left?" He went, "That's it. It's nearly over." So we're like, really? It was that. It was. Have we won or not? You know, it's one of those, because it was a topsy-turvy, and just that thought, we've done it. You know, can we just hold on for 10 seconds or whatever? I don't even know what it was, but that was the thing I can remember as much as anything of the game, was just that moment, you know.
Were you stood there at that moment going, "Should have signed me Arsenal"? Told you.
He didn't know about it, did he? He didn't know about it.
No, I mean, looking back now, you probably should have thought so, going, told you.
Yeah, true. Yeah, actually, that might have been. I never even thought about that. That might have been after that game, because I don't think Lee Dixon was there at that time. I don't think they had quite the team. They won the league the next year, I think, didn't they, Arsenal?
Yeah, they won it in 89 and 91, yeah.
All right, okay. You're an Arsenal supporter then, Andrew?
They're my Premier League team, if I have to go for anybody. I go for Luton, hands down, but yeah, when I was a kid, as you always do. Yes, but I support. I was only 4. Marv Man went to the game. He went to all those ones. So
did he?
Yes, yes.
Brilliant.
But no, it was fantastic. But that's one for you to think about. And when we finish on the pod, you'll be thinking about that, trying to work out, did George Graham want to sign me off the back of my performance?
Yeah. No, that's good.
Lovely. Well, I want to say thank you very much for your time, Tim.
Yes, thank you, Tim.
Been fantastic talking to you. And
brilliant.
Just give you a 30-second chance to say anything to any fans of West Ham, QPR or Luton.
No, I just say thank you for listening. Yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed a bit of reminiscing. I have definitely, and fantastic times. And I'm lucky to be part of 3 really good clubs and 2 where I remember got some unbelievable memories of times there, and just very thankful that I was allowed to be part of their history, if you like. So yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Fantastic. And that was Tim Breaker's My Best 11.